So, welcome to today. I'm Christine.
I'm Liz.
And we are Double D-Fense. We're an all-female New York Rangers podcast, bringing you fun conversation about our New York Rangers, the NHL and hockey, and so much more. Thank you for joining us.
Well, hey, Christine.
It's good to see that we're alive after everyone seems to be jumping off the roofs for our latest non-win game from the Rangers yesterday.
I was watching the game and I was texting with you. This is the Calgary Flames game. This is the game that the Rangers played last night. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 19th. This is the day before the Rangers take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and after they've just lost to the Calgary Flames. And I was texting with you. I was texting with another friend, and all we could say is meh. Like so much meh. So much just lackluster, boring, not trying hard hockey. And in a time where the Rangers need to be trying hard, or at least pretending that they care, it just seems like everything was left on the table. And that's very frustrating.
Like the last two games were close, but they, everyone is pointing out that we've only won 4 in the last so many, right? So we're not, and even though some of those losses were overtime losses. So we are hanging in there. I think I was just telling you earlier, I think we're playing a little game. The game's called Above the Line, Below the Line, Above the Line, Below the Line.
And the line you're referring to, for those of you who aren't following it as closely as we are, is the line for who makes the playoffs and who goes home to start their summer vacation.
Yeah, everyone else is shifting, but we seem to be remaining in that little spot, right? So as these games tick away, it's just getting more and more nerve-wracking, to do it. Because I think to kind of what you're saying and what other people are saying too, it's like you want them to be playing with a sense of urgency. I heard them talking about that last night. But also, to the credit of Calgary, they're playing with the same intensity. So they come out and they played like what you saw, that the way they played is what you want to see in our team. And so so just does it make us, and we kind of have this biased sense, when watching the game. And I know some people, like pull it apart for different things, but it is what it is. You have two teams playing, trying to keep it in the play, to stay in the playoffs, to make the playoffs. And Calgary just played much better last night. So, again, there's so much comparison going on. I mean, I'm going to just compare the two games from Edmonton to last night. Here they are playing, a team where I didn't even like listening to the guys. They were just like, well, Edmonton just wants to win, and just keep their home ice advantage. Meanwhile, the Rangers are playing for their lives right now. And we held them, to a 1-goal game. So I thought that was a good game, actually. And then 2 days later, you're like, you got that momentum and that hope, and you're like, we're going to get those points. And then, they come up flat. I was driving home from work in the first 10 minutes of the game. The guys on the radio, they were killing me. I mean, one of the plays I heard them call was, and Bedard has the puck, and he passes it to no one. And I was just outright laughing.
What's funny?
Watching this, and they were frustrated early on.
I can hear it. I can certainly hear it. Not so much with Sam, who always stays positive, but Joe Micheletti, sometimes you can tell he's just like, why would they do that? And then Steve Valiquette, I don't think I have ever heard him more down on a game than he was with this Calgary game. He was personally offended. Yeah. But it takes a lot for these guys. I think that they have some kind of rule in their contract that can't be that negative. So please don't kill Joe Micheletti, New York Rangers.
They're just being real, and I love that. And listening to it, because I do listen to a fair amount, of games as I'm kind of in transit and doing stuff, and it's just as fun. It's a different take. They're a little bit more vocal and and they kind of express their stress a little bit more. So, basically they were like, this is a terrible first period. And again, like that whole thing, and Berard gets the puck and he passes it to no one. And I just lost it. It was really funny, actually. I wish
We should try to find that clip. That's great. But how it's certainly representative of where the Rangers of how it's felt watching them. And it's been really frustrating because we're right at the verge. And just right now, I'm looking at the standings. The Rangers are just out of the wild card spot with 72 points. Montreal is ahead of them with 73. Ottawa has really taken a big lead at 77. But the problem is the Rangers have a lot of teams right on their tail too. There are 3 teams with 70 points. That's the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, and Detroit. And each one of them has at least one game in hand on the Rangers. The Rangers have played 69 games. Ottawa, Montreal, Islanders, and Columbus have played 67. Detroit has played 68. So the Rangers, if they are absolutely going to have any chance of making the playoffs, they need to step up. Thankfully, you and I will be in the audience for the games coming up.
Well, on our last podcast, we kind of ran down a couple things that we needed to say. And, I think the heavens opened up and listened to us because pretty much everything we talked about, like, hey, where's Panarin been? Oh, we found him. Now where'd the rest of the team go?
They need to do
everyone else disappears.
The other night. In case you have missed that episode, I highly encourage you. You can go back and listen. We did our previous episode was our top 10 list of what the Rangers need to do in order to make the playoffs. One of them was Christine put out an APB for Panarin, who actually has woken up. He has played really good hockey in the last couple of weeks. He's had some amazing goals. He has been nailing that slap shot. Like he's deadly with that. That's great. Now, if the Rangers could get on to the other 9 things that we talked about, that would be helpful. Although I will say, I think, Shesterkin's had some ups and downs. I thought he played very well last night. There wasn't anything that he could do. It's just the rest of the team seems so lackluster.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot, to kind of catch up on. So in the last week too, we've seen really, really bad calls on the refs, so much that one of the reports is that one of the refs actually came up and apologized, to Matt Rempe for the call. And, I really hate to see that because it really brings me back to the 2014 playoffs where there was an interference call that didn't get called and the Kings beat the Rangers that day and went on to win. And those are huge pivotal turning points. And we've seen a couple of these really bad calls turn into goals, which ultimately is costing us a game. And that's frustrating to see as well, especially, with those two, when you're watching the replay and, you have intentional, like lifting of the stick, and like it's intentional, dirty kind of, hockey, and the guys are getting away with it. That was the Oiler game.
Yeah. And I think the game that you're referring to with the Rempe call where the ref apologized, I think that was the Winnipeg game. And Rempe was called for goalie interference, even though he was shoved into the goalie by one of their players. It was a terrible call. I think someone on another podcast was calling it literally the worst call in the history of hockey. And I feel like, Rempe's obviously a huge target because every time he gets on the ice, he winds up being penalized for something, whether or not he deserves it or not.
Yeah. So, we're seeing, and so much that they were talking about it, it was interesting. It's like, they're kind of saying, look, the refs have to do something because like the one that happened during the Oiler game where the guy lifted up the stick and got a pen, I think it was on Miller. Like that's something where they got away with, and they like what they did is they're making the refs look bad, not catching that. So it's like the refs really have to do something. If there's 3 of them on the ice, they have to be able to call these things better. And, and I know every team feels like they're the ones that are, the target of the refs, but really we know we are. So it's really frustrating to see. And it does create a boiling point when it is costing us games. Does that, kind of add to this momentum and morality, kind of thing we're seeing with these players? I think part of it is, yes. I'm always like, I always like them overcoming things when like they get a goal overturned for an offsides or something like that, where you want to overcome that and kind of play a little bit harder. But I'm not in their locker room. I don't know. But I do feel that it just deflates them at the moment, especially when you're watching the replays and it's and you just there's not really a rule to fight these. And that's one of the that's one of the things that just bugs me as a business of hockey, where these guys kind of just there's a rule. They can't fight certain things, and they just have to live with it, and that's not something you should have to live with. So
the standards for a lot of these calls, they're just very inconsistent, and maybe we're a few years away from literally like a scan of the whole ice, and then like AI tells you if you've made an infraction or not. Like, I feel like we're probably not too far away from that. And maybe that's what needs to happen, because I think a lot of these refs are making emotional decisions based on what's happening in the game. And that really should not be happening.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they have the ability to do that. So you piss one off, use one too many curse words, like they're gonna throw you out. We know, I've seen it. So so we've kind of seen that before. And then there was that clip of some guy trying to bribe one of the refs, which was hilarious. The NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. Right, Ranger fans? And no one knows where it's going. But that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. Right, Ranger fans? And games left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-time users to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go with your favorite team, regardless of where they're at in the standings. Just do it. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and select your team, and then place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. NHL and NHL team marks are property of the NHL and its teams. Copyright NHL 2025, all rights reserved.
I'll kind of take it back a little bit, because at one point when Matt was on, I think they do it in the European League, where they had added to their regimen, where they interview the refs after the game to explain the calls. And so, we know we talked about it on a way previous episode, but that was such a good thing, because it really makes them accountable, and it also makes them know that they're accountable for their calls. Right now, like no one ever talks to a ref, like no one there, so we don't even get an insight for what they saw. And look at when I have to say, I did chuckle at it. I know it's not a good thing, especially for guys, but when Miller got nailed and then he went off, like just the Mika just screaming at the ref, yelling it's his fault and everything. And that was like, that's the passion we want to see 24 hours. And, during every time that they're playing and they're not playing and they're getting ready for stuff, that's the energy we want to see. So, all we can do is hope for the best in each and every game. Otherwise, we're all going to be drunk and angry.
Yeah.
So,
especially now that we're spending hours and lots of dollars to go see them in person.
But we're going to play the game. Above the line, below the line, above the line, below the line. And hopefully we're going to end up above. Look, they're still saying that they're going to make it, and then we'll go from there. So Yeah, I mean, look, all you can do is sit and kind of watch it. Don't watch it if you don't want to. Stop griping about it because we kind of know the situation we're in. And, and then I tried to have a friend yell I'm like, can you just yell at them and tell them that they need to play better? And he's like, okay. And I'm like, just yell really loud. Yeah, which is what I'm doing.
So let me ask you, Christine, I think this is sort of the question and the debate that is happening in Twitterland right now. If the Rangers do not make the playoffs,
they don't.
What do you do? What do you do about Laviolette?
Oh, it's not to me.
Yeah, but I don't. That's what we get to do in this podcast.
I know. Look, it's not up to me. Look, I don't really think it's him. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Look, Drury's been messing us up, the whole way with these, with these trades. And it's never really been a clear lane to kind of skate down, so to speak. So, could somebody take the fall for that? Absolutely. Do you have a better option? No, I don't see anybody coming in and improving more on it. You can have a coach, but you need the team to work. And right now, kind of what we're seeing is why is this team not working?
Yeah.
Why are they not going out and just doing these obvious things? Some of them are, not everybody.
And they don't all do it at the same time. That's also the problem. You have like these little bright spots, like a little light goes on here, and then the rest of the lights are off. And then one here, but they're not all finding that synergy together. But is that coaching? Is that culture? Is that something else entirely?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, it's hard for us to speak. And if anybody else thinks they know more, then because we're not in that locker room, talking and stuff. And you can say it's a coach thing. What's the coach? The coach is making the lineups. The coach is making the changes. He's deciding who to put out there. But once they're out on the ice, it's their job to do what they're doing. And they're the ones mucking up, like when they're playing. So we're seeing bad passes. And
so many bad passes. And so many passes to no one.
I wish I would have seen it. I need to see it so that I can kind of visualize what happened. I'll have to go back and watch it then in the beginning. It's in the beginning of the game, just to see what they were saying. Because I think that's also
and bad line changes, like the too many men on the ice penalties. Like there's been a lot of that.
Yeah. So that's something. So there's a couple things that I'm seeing on. So JT Miller's getting a lot. Everyone's still raving on, but he's pulling a lot of penalties. I don't believe. Could be wrong, but I don't believe that anyone scored when he's been in the box. But I keep saying, I think I was posting and I said, he's going to start costing us because he's getting a penalty a game or more, right? So yeah, he's getting us all fired up and everything. Now they're also kind of, getting into the mix, getting more physical. Is what I saw Mika push somebody and I was like, ooh, that's what we need to be seeing. And I think I was talking about this last time too. I mean, they're coming out here next week and they're playing, they're playing Toronto and then they're going to come out. You need that physicality to play. So next week, next Tuesday, we'll talk about a little more, but they're playing the Kings, but next Friday, a week from Friday, it's a little Trouba reunion, so are we going to be physical? The Ducks aren't playing that great, but here's the other frustration. We tend to lose to teams that we can beat. Again, the Oilers who are above us and doing really well, we held a good tight game with them. So the expectation is that we shouldn't be holding a tight game against Calgary, who's, but Calgary's going to come in and those guys still have fight. They're still professional teams. So you can't knock it. But we do have a tendency to lose to teams that we are more skilled at and we are better. So I don't know what, and that comes down to a mental thing too. It's like, what mentality are they going into the game with? Do they think that it's going to be an easy win? As we always kind of say, you should be going into these games as if it were the Stanley Cup every game. There should be that kind of mentality for stuff. So I don't know where their heads are at, and I feel that they're all over the place. Like, you got Cryer's coming off of, injuries. Fox has had a baby. Miller's always looking pretty, and Panarin's got his hair back. I mean, there's things happening, and And you still got a couple of the newer players that are trying to kind of fit in too. So it might be too chaotic to get them very far. So the hope right now is just a matter of staying, fingers crossed, that we go above the line and we stay there, and that we're able to, to squish in there, and then it's a whole new ball game. So, and that's all you can do. I mean, the first milestone is to make sure we make the playoffs and keep that New York streak kind of going.
Yeah. And with 11 games to go,
it's fun. I love this part. I love the fight and the drive that other teams have.
Yeah, and not an interesting schedule for the Rangers upcoming. I mean, obviously there's the West Coast road trip, and then there's a couple of what looks like going to be a hairy couple of end to the season games. Starting on April 5th, the Rangers have the Devils, the Lightning, the Flyers, the Islanders, the Hurricanes, the Panthers, and then the Lightning again to close out the season on April 17th. So. Wow, it's a lot.
I think it's gonna be great, but it's gonna be great. Hey, they can beat any one of those teams. I mean, and that's the thing. We have the tools. We have the same, the people. We can do it, and they do have they can do it. They've done it before. I just don't understand why, they're gonna come in and really play as if they're in last place to a team that's in second to last place, and that's where it gets to be kind of nutty. I will read, and I kind of read this to you earlier, but I want to read it to everybody else because I thought it was really interesting, and I kind of like it. And it's the New York Rangers reporter Vince Mercogliano, and so he was posting, and I really like what he said. He's like, we've talked repeatedly about the New York Rangers' tendency to play an east-west, a finesse game that fizzles in tight checking environments. That is true. We're constantly seeing these east-west passes, and then for a moment they're good, and then they just kind of stop. Laviolette and previous coaches as well have urged them to play more direct style. And while they do in spurts, it's always fleeting. So that's another question. So why is there not consistency in doing that?
Yeah.
They've been doing a lot of passing. Why? I'm like, that's what I said to myself, 4 or 5 or 10 times. It's like, why did you pass and not shoot it? When they had a couple of breakaways and stuff. They eventually fall into traps like they did last night, where they get lazy, disengage physically, and make sloppy turnovers, which is why they rank as one of NHL's worst teams defending against the rush. I think last night in the first period, they had so many, giveaways, and they had no takeaway. Like they didn't, it was that bad, so statistically, the first period was horrendous, and that's why everyone kind of was freaking out. So Vince says, I asked Lavi if it's just part of this core's DNA and can rear its head at any moment. He pondered for a second before resigning to himself and admitting, yeah, it is. If you have a crystal ball and you knew in advance, you certainly would hit that even harder, but you address it as it's going through the game. You try to address it on the bench and in between periods, and it never really changes. So going to where it's a coach's thing, if he's saying something like that and he knows, that this is the way it is, then why are you not pushing that directive all the time? Why are you waiting until a game start or during the game to kind of address it when and you're not pushing it and having them do it in practice, and stuff.
I gotta say, I'm getting real. I'm starting to get real sick of their post-game interviews that everyone is doing, because there's only so many times you can hear them say, you do the best impression, Christine. For anyone just joining us, Christine does the best impression of a hockey player being interviewed after a game, especially one that they lost
on the spot. Well, yeah, I know we could have done better last night, but we're going to work on our passing from east to west, and we're gonna try harder.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it was a real tough one.
That's pretty much it.
We have no excuses. We have no excuses.
Yeah,
we're really sick of it. We know you have no excuses. We know.
Yeah, and it's the same spiel. I don't know. I don't know how they can keep interviewing them when they say the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So and nothing's a surprise. They know that people are talking about them. They know they're playing crappy. And they know they have to do better. And, and it's funny, the comments that I've seen, it's like, they're playing like they want to play golf, they're playing, they want to be done in April. And maybe that's what they want, So, I mean, they all get paid whether they win or lose. And I think they're starting again. So weird.
Well, you know,
starting. It's starting already. And then you turn it off, and then you start voting. So real quick too, before we end up going or get technical difficulties like we are, I'm representing UNLV, and I just want to, and if you guys are following us on Instagram, you'll see that I did a bunch of stories. But I will tell you that, you know, the UNLV hockey team made UNLV history by this year, beating the NCAA champions of Denver University in an upset exhibition game earlier this year. They won their division in WCHL championships, which earned them the right to go and play at the ACHA championships in St. Louis. And they did that. They had, and I was kind of following the games, which are on Flow Hockey. So if you ever watch those and you're watching college hockey, do that. If you're listening and you want us to shout out any of your college hockey teams, we will rightfully do so because they deserve all of this. The UNLV Rebels played the first 2 rounds, came from behind. One game was like they were down 2-0 in the third, tied it up and won in overtime. And then last night went into the championship game and won it easily. They got a penalty shot. The ultimate, I think the last score was 7-3 to become, the ACHA Division I men's champions. First time in UNLV history that's happened. And Matt, Matt's in all their videos, which is really cute. I was trying to capture some of that. They took a great group picture on the ice with their family, and Matt was in there too, who went there. So Matt traveled on his own last minute with of course I get the mom, what happens if you miss a layover? To mom, I don't have a hotel. I'm going to go stay with the guys. I'm going to get a flight home tomorrow to the 6 a.m. call this morning. That was like, I got a flight, mom, I'm good. So he should be home sleeping right now. But definitely I'm representing, the college team. I am a UNLV mom. Matthew, my son and our correspondent, goes to UNLV and he's like their number one fan, big, huge fan of the team. And, just a big congratulations goes out to each and every single one of those young men and how much they accomplished. They screamed through every single team they played for, in the season. Scores were 12-1. It was just an amazing season for them. So good for them. I like to see them kind of move up in divisions and see how they do. But definitely that's the highlight of the week.